Hello everyone. This is a video lesson on Angela Carter's Nights at the Circus. Now, this is a novel which is wild, dazzling, and at times a bewildering book that plays with reality, gender, history, and storytelling itself. It's that kind of a novel that refuses to be pinned down into a single category, which is precisely what makes it so fascinating to analyze. Now, in this class, we're going to unpack some of its major themes and ideas, particularly how it engages with paradoxes, feminism, Marxism, and postmodernism. While these concepts are big theoretical concepts, I'll try to break them down with examples from the novel so that we can see how Carter uses storytelling to challenge the way we see the world. One of the first things you will notice about Nights at the Circus is that it is full of contradictions. Carter keeps setting up opposites: fact and fiction, illusion and reality, spectacle and truth, but she never gives us a clear answer about which is real. Instead, she focuses on the uncertainty of life. Let's take Favors, our protagonist, Sophie Favors. She is this larger than life aerialist who claims to be the first woman born with wings. That's an extraordinary claim, but is it true? On one hand, we see her flying, we hear about her childhood, and we get all these details that seem to confirm her story. On the other hand, though, Walzer, the journalist, he keeps trying to figure out if it's all just a clever con, whether she's trying to deceive. And Carter never gives us a definitive answer. That's the key to this novel. It constantly challenges us to question what we assume is true. It's a book about belief and how stories shape reality. This tension between reality and illusion plays throughout the novel. The circus, for example, looks so magical from the outside, but it is actually a grimy, exploitative place behind the scenes. Ma Nelson's brothel, which you would expect to be seedy and dangerous, is portrayed as safe and nurturing. Even the animals seem more human than many of the actual human characters, especially the male characters. And then we have Walzer himself, a skeptical journalist who starts the novel as an observer. He thinks he's just there to report on Favors, to uncover the truth. But what happens by the end, we know. He is completely drawn into this world where he becomes part of the circus himself. That is Carter's way of showing us that no one is a neutral observer in life. We're all shaped by the stories we tell and the ones we choose to believe. Let's take a look at the novel from the Marxist perspective. Now, if you are not familiar with Marxist literary theory, the basic idea is that how our economic conditions, how much money we have, our social class, how does it all shape the way we experience the world? In Nights of the Circus, Carter is very aware of how money and power affect people's lives, especially women's lives. Favors is constantly aware of money. She's always thinking about her wages. She's negotiating her worth, making sure she's not being cheated. The women in Ma Nelson's brothel didn't become prostitutes because they wanted to. They did it because they had no other choice. It was a way to survive. Even in the circus, performers are exploited. They are part of a spectacle that makes money for the owners while they themselves have very little control. Carter is showing us that poverty and oppression aren't natural, they are created by economic systems. And if they are created, that means they can also be changed. So, Favors in many ways represents a resistance to this system. She's a survivor, she's a hustler, someone who knows how to play the game. But Carter also makes it clear that one person alone No matter how powerful that person is, one person alone cannot change an entire system. Real change requires collective action. Now, let's talk about Favors from a feminist perspective because this novel has a lot to say about gender. Favors is not your typical female protagonist. She's loud, she's crude, she eats like a starving animal, she burps, she farts. Basically, she does everything that women in literature, especially heroines, are not traditionally supposed to do. And this is important because Carter is making a point. Femininity, as we usually think of it, is an act. Femininity is an act, it is something that society constructs. Faber's entire public image is based on illusion. She wears heavy makeup, she dyes her hair, she exaggerates her mannerisms, and most importantly, she markets herself as a virgin because that makes her more valuable. But is she actually a virgin? Probably not, we don't know. Does it matter? It doesn't matter really because what's important is that society believes she is. Carter here critiques the way women's bodies and identities are commodified, how they are packaged and sold based on myths about purity and desirability. This also connects to a concept in feminist theory called écriture féminine or feminine writing, which challenges traditional male dominated storytelling structures. Carter's writing itself is wild, chaotic, excessive, just like Faber's. She's not just telling a feminist story, she's writing in a way that resists control and order. Now that we have talked about reality and illusion, and also Marxist and feminist perspective, let us take a look at how this novel is postmodern. What really makes this novel postmodern is the way it breaks traditional storytelling rules. If modernist literature was all about making sense of the chaos of the world, postmodernism embraces that chaos. It revels in uncertainty, contradictions, and the idea that truth is subjective. One of the hallmarks of postmodern fiction is its refusal to follow a linear, straightforward narrative. In Nights at the Circus, the storytelling jumps around, and we can never be entirely sure that we are being told what we are being told is true. Favors constantly changes and exaggerates details about her past, making it impossible for us or Walzer who interviews her. It makes it impossible to separate fact from fiction. Even Walzer's own journey from a journalist to a circus performer is framed in a way that blurs reality. His transformation is both literal and metaphorical. Now, Carter is playing with the idea of history as a constructed narrative. History isn't just a record of events, it is shaped by who tells the story, how they tell it, and which details they emphasize or leave out. So, in a way, Favors embodies this concept because she controls her own myth, which shapes her past, making to make her more dramatic, more marketable. Another a key postmodern technique is gender bending and intertextuality. Carter doesn't stick to just one genre. She borrows elements from multiple genres and smashes them together. This novel is part picaresque adventure, following Favors and Walser as they travel from London to St. Petersburg to Siberia. But it is also a fairy tale with magical elements like a woman who has wings. There are traces of the Gothic, then there are even science fiction elements in the novel. Now, by blending genres, Carter refuses to let the novel fit neatly into any one category. It forces us to constantly adjust our expectations, which is a classic postmodern technique. And then we have intertextuality, another major postmodern feature. This means that the novel references and borrows from other literary and cultural texts. Favors has been compared to figures from mythology, angels, harpies, and even Icarus. Carter also references Victorian literature, fairy tales, and other classic narratives, but she twists them, reinterpreting them in ways that challenge patriarchal storytelling. So, postmodern fiction acknowledges that stories are never entirely original. Everything is influenced by past narratives. Carter plays with this by weaving in familiar tropes and then subverting them. Bricolage and pastiche. Bricolage is when an artist takes different elements, often from history or literature or pop culture, and pieces them together in new, contradictory ways in certain cases. So, Nights at the Circus does this brilliantly. Carter takes Victorian England, the myth of the fallen woman, the world of the circus, and feminist theory, and she mashes them all together into something completely new and strange. Similarly, pastiche also means borrowing from earlier storytelling traditions, not to parody them but to reinvent them. So Carter is, she borrows and reshapes older forms of literature in a playful way, creating something that feels at once historical and completely modern. Another aspect is the metafictional aspect of the novel. Metafiction means that a novel which acknowledges itself as a fiction. It doesn't try to make you forget that you're reading a story. It is a story that knows it is a story. Now, Nights at the Circus constantly reminds us that everything is constructed, whether it's Favors' identity, the stories people tell, or even the novel itself. She literally performs her own legend, Favors. She's aware that she's a spectacle, a character in a story. Carter plays with the idea by making the storytelling feel larger than life, filled with theatrical exaggerations and stuff. Novels' self awareness forces us as readers to question why we believe stories, how myths are created, and what it means to construct an identity. Finally, Carter uses magic realism, a technique where the fantastical and the ordinary exist side by side without contradiction. In Knights of the Circus, the idea of a winged woman is treated as both magical and mundane. There's never a dramatic moment when someone says, wait, this is impossible. Instead, it's just accepted as part of the world. This is what makes Favors so interesting. She exists in this space between the real and the unreal, between spectacle and truth. In the last part, we'll discuss how language contributes, or how the incredible usage of Carter's language contributes to its style. And her writing style is just as wild and experimental as her storytelling. Carter, her prose is inventive, it is exuberant and excessive. She doesn't just tell a story, she performs it with language. One of the things that you'll notice is that Carter constantly shifts between different styles of language. Sometimes the novel sounds philosophical and intellectual. At other times, it's just casual and crude with slang, jokes, and exaggerated dialogue. Now, this mirrors Favors herself. She can sound grand and theatrical one moment and then completely vulgar the next moment. So, this technique makes the novel feel alive, constantly surprising us with shifts in tone and voice. Carter's metaphors are also not subtle, they're bold, they're strange, they're full of contradictions. She describes Favor's laugh as a clap of thunder in a cloudless sky, combining two things that don't usually go together. The descriptions in the novel are always exaggerated. It pushes the boundaries of realism. Now, this reflects the larger themes of the novel. Nothing is quite as it seems, and everything is a mix of the beautiful and also the grotesque. Now, unlike traditional controlled storytelling, Carter's language is excessive and abundant. She doesn't edit things down, she expands, elaborates, and lets language overflow. It is inclusive, as at the same time it is expansive. It is a very, much explanatory, self-explanatory, and at the same time it is expansive. Where you need to understand certain things. If you need to understand certain things, you will need a lot of background reading. It also aligns with the feminist concept of écriture feminine, which argues that women's writing should be free, fluid, and unrestricted. So her style resists any neat categorization, just like the protagonist Weber's and also the novel. So, to conclude, Nights at the Circus isn't just a story, it's a challenge to how we think about reality, gender, history, and storytelling. Carter plays with contradictions, fact and fiction, spectacle and truth. She subverts traditional narratives about women and power. She uses language itself as a tool of rebellion, breaking conventional styles, conventional rules to create something new. So, this novel is a celebration of excess uh, and performance, and also the power of stories. And ultimately, that's what makes it so unforgettable.